I'm May. I grew up in an orphanage and I didn't know anything about my real parents. All I had was a lily-shaped pendant. There were 2 letters engraved on it. I didn't know what they meant, but considered the pendant my lucky charm. More than anything, I like to take care of the trees and the flowers in our garden. One day, I went to the store to buy some rare seeds. On the way back to the orphanage, I saw an elderly man sitting on a bench. As I was passing by him, he suddenly clutched at his heart and turned red. "Are you all right?" The man wheezed. I immediately called an ambulance. "He has a heart condition. He was lucky you were there and called us." That evening, the head of our orphanage asked everyone to come to the main hall and made a surprising announcement. "Mr. and Mrs. Kondo are coming here in a week. Azumi Kondo and her husband are powerful and wealthy. We need to make a good impression on them so they'll sponsor us." We didn't get important guests like that often, so everyone was really excited and worried. The day before the Kondos were to arrive, I was working in the garden. I was watering the roses when a woman I didn't know suddenly approached me. "These flowers are so beautiful. Did you grow them yourself?" "I did. It's a really rare type. Could you show me to the office for the head of the orphanage?" When we walked into his office, he nervously twitched and turned red as a lobster. "Mrs. Kondo, sorry, we weren't expecting you until tomorrow." Mrs. Kondo? Was she Azumi Kondo, the woman that we'd been waiting for? There's been a slight change of plans. I hope it won't be a problem. Of course not. I saw him quickly hide something in a drawer. Mr. and Mrs. Kondo spent most of their day at the orphanage. They looked at our rooms, talked to us, and even had lunch in our dining room. Before leaving, Mrs. Kondo came out into the garden and praised my work again. "This garden is beautiful. You have a talent." Her compliment made me feel warm inside. I put my whole heart and soul into that garden. Mrs. Kondo's gaze lingered on my neck. "What a beautiful pendant." "It's my lucky charm." Mrs. Kondo left, and soon we received an impressive donation. The head of our orphanage almost burst into tears with joy and immediately bought us new furniture. I was entrusted with bringing a box with the new dishes to the kitchen, but I tripped and fell on the porch. When I looked into the box, I saw that all the dishes were in pieces. Oh no! Soon, the head of the orphanage called me into his office. I walked in warily. "May, I have great news for you." "Hold on a sec. Wasn't he gonna scold me?" "The Kondos really liked you. They want to adopt you." "What the what?" My eyes bugged out and I was left speechless. Usually only the youngest kids get adopted. I'd never thought I'd get so lucky. Mr. and Mrs. Kondo seemed like nice people, and I agreed to become a part of their family. My new parents had moved to America from Japan. They brought me to their gorgeous mansion in Virginia. After the orphanage, it seemed like I was stepping into a castle. They incorporated elements of the traditional Japanese style into their home. There was a huge double bed in my room. I immediately ran and jumped on it and lay there spread eagle. Wow, it was so soft. There were cosmetics and bottles of perfume on the dressing table. I immediately put on all of them. They smelled amazing. My first evening there, my adoptive parents introduced me to my new brothers. There were 4 of them. Can you imagine? The eldest son was called Aki, and then there was Jiro, Katsu, and the youngest, Ryu. "My name means dragon. I'll protect you." "Chill, I'm the protector here." "I can protect our sister too." "Me too." It was such a warm welcome. I was touched. My brothers looked like real princes, and they treated me like a princess too. When I woke up the next morning, there was a breakfast tray on my bed. Wow, was I dreaming? After a couple of minutes, the door to my room opened up a crack and I saw Aki, and then Jiro, Katsu, and Ryu. "Good morning, sis. I hope you enjoyed your breakfast." "Thank you. No one's ever done something like this for me before." My brothers sat down on my bed and presented me with gifts. They got me beautiful clothes and expensive jewelry. Ryu even bought me a bracelet shaped like a dragon. "Let this bracelet be a symbol of our family ties." But the most important gift was the one I got from my mom. There was a large garden full of sakura trees by the mansion. She led me there and smiled. "Sweetie, this garden is now yours. You can grow whatever you want here." It was the best gift ever! I thanked my mom and I pulled her into a tight hug. I worried about my garden at the orphanage though. Who was gonna take care of it now? But when I told my mom about it, she told me not to worry. "Don't worry, we've already found a good gardener for them." The next morning, I got my new school uniform. After changing into it, I couldn't get enough of looking at myself in the mirror. It was amazing! In addition to my uniform, my parents gave me a cute backpack. I was looking at it when Aki walked into my room. "Princess, we need to go or we'll be late." My brothers went to an elite academy and our parents transferred transferred me so we could all study together. Aki drove us there. I was over the moon because I'd only ever walked to school before. When Aki opened the sunroof, I stood up, spread my arms, and enjoyed the wind in my face. It was amazing! When we stopped by the academy, I thought we'd arrived at Hogwarts at first. It looked like a freaking magical castle! As we walked through the corridors, I admired the stained glass windows and the stucco on the ceiling. I was so busy staring around that I almost walked past our classroom. This is us. I ended up in the same class as Jiro and Katsu. The condo's got a charity case. Look, they're helping a poor orphan. Don't you dare talk to me like that, or you'll regret it. My brothers looked like they were gonna pounce on her. I hadn't expected my classmates' words to piss them off so much. That wasn't the last weird thing that happened that day. We came to the school cafeteria for lunch. My brothers left to get us food, and I sat down at an empty table. This is our table. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I was about to get up when my brothers came up to us. May is gonna be sitting here from now on. Get lost! It's okay, I can move. Our sister's wish is law. We'll sit here. Those girls left and my brothers put 4 trays of food in front of me. That was definitely too much for me. They stared at me with adoring eyes the whole time I was eating. It was so embarrassing I even choked. I'll get the nurse. I'll call an ambulance. No need. I'm fine. I hoped they would calm down over time, but things kept spiraling. They were acting like a bunch of wackos. It was like they were obsessed with me. One day, I forgot my gym clothes at home. As soon as they found out about it, they ran back home and then broke into the girls' locker room. Here, we brought your uniform. Are you nuts? I'm leaving. They tried to follow me, but I wandered into the far wing of the academy and hid from them there. Then, I heard approaching footsteps in the corridor. Oh no, they'd found me. I cautiously peeked around the corner and... Have you ever felt your heart suddenly stop and then start beating faster? That's what I experienced in that moment. But before I tell you what happened next, please like this video and don't forget to subscribe to the Private Diary channel. A gorgeous guy was walking down the corridor. His blonde hair was shining in the sunlight. His blue eyes were sparkling. His shirt was not hiding how muscly he was. I couldn't take my eyes off him. Butterflies fluttered in my stomach. Before I knew it, I was leaving my hiding place. Hi there. I was so nervous I felt myself blush. Hello, I saw you in the cafeteria. By the way, you look great. The compliment made me melt like ice cream on a hot day. The handsome guy's name was Liam. He transferred to the academy just recently, like me, and it turned out we had a lot in common. We chatted as we walked down the corridor. At some point, he stopped and tucked a stray strand of hair behind my ear. I got goosebumps from head to toe. It was a magical moment. But then, hey, get your hands off her. My brothers took us by surprise. They ran up to Liam and pushed him away from me. Ryu looked like a real fire-breathing dragon. No one touches our sister! I wanted to sink through the floor. It was so humiliating, I burst into tears and ran away. At home, I ignored my brothers all evening, but they didn't even seem to notice. Most of all, I was afraid that Liam wouldn't look at me again. But the guy of my dreams wasn't a coward. The next day, he came up to me when I was alone. Your brothers sure are something, aren't they? Sometimes they're absolutely insufferable. From that moment on, Liam and I talked every day. He came up with 1,000 ways to distract my brothers. One day after school, Liam punctured Aki's tire. While my brothers were changing it, I slipped away and hung out with Liam. He took me to a rooftop cinema. It was so romantic. After that, Liam started a rumor that my brothers were called to the principal's office. Ryu, did you do something again? I didn't! They headed to the principal's office, and Liam and I ran off to a park. He brought some bread, and we fed the ducks swimming in the pond. I desperately wanted to show Liam my garden and share a piece of my world with him. One day, we skipped the last class. My brothers stayed at school, and our parents were at work. I brought Liam to our house, and I showed him the sakura trees. Wow, it's so beautiful here. We were looking at the petals swirling in the air when Liam gently took my hand. When our fingers touched, I turned red as a tomato. My heart was pounding. I feel like I've known you my whole life. Blushing, I looked away. I didn't know what to do. I had to say something, but my mind was blank. You should probably go. Liam looked lost when I pushed him towards the gate. Okay, see you tomorrow. See you. Phew. After Liam left, I noticed an elderly man near our house. Strangely enough, he looked familiar. Where could I have seen him before? The man was staring at me, and that's when I remembered. I called an ambulance for him a few weeks ago. Before I could approach him, though, the man left. Liam and I kept meeting up in secret, and things were great. for a while. But then I noticed that my parents were acting weird. They seemed tense and kept discussing something in a whisper. Whenever I came up to them, they fell silent and acted like everything was fine. What bothered me the most was my brothers. At some point, Liam's tricks didn't fool them anymore. They didn't leave me alone for even a second. Don't worry. We won't let anyone hurt you. Get it through your thick skulls. I don't need to be protected. At first, I was glad to have a family, but now they were all pissing me off. Liam was my breath of fresh air. We texted each other nonstop. But then something happened. One evening, my parents said we needed to talk. May, from this day on, you can't leave the house alone. What? Why? It's for your own safety. I demanded an explanation, but they wouldn't tell me the reason. I didn't understand what was going on, and I was sick of all their secrets. That evening, I was sitting in my room and listening to depressing music when I got a text from Liam. He wanted me to look out the window. My jaw dropped when I did as he asked. Liam was climbing up our decorative ivy. In a few minutes, he was in my room. You're crazy! I'm a hero, you mean? We could sneak out together. I'll help you down. He didn't need to ask me twice. Of course, it was a bit scary, but I didn't want Liam to think that I was a coward. I was already sitting on the windowsill when the door to my room burst open. We told you to stay away from May. Before Liam could say anything, my brothers dragged him away from me. What are you doing? Leave him alone! Our parents came running to the noise. I tried to tell them what had happened, but they took my brother's side. May, you should stay away from Liam. You aren't welcome in this house, young man. I was beside myself with anger and felt like I had steam coming out of my ears. Even at the orphanage, I never felt as lonely as I did that night. I curled up in my huge bed and I thought of Liam and sobbed. Eventually, I managed to fall asleep, but then I woke up because I felt like someone was watching me. I slowly opened my eyes and I saw dark figures all around me. My heart immediately started racing and a chill ran down my spine. A knife flashed in the moonlight. They leaned over me and I screamed. Ah! The light suddenly came on and everything fell into place. What are you doing here? We need to keep you safe in case Liam comes back. I glanced in horror at the knife in Jiro's hand. What's that? Just a little something I bought at a fair, in case we need to scare off that obsessed admirer. Ugh, he's not the obsessed one. You are! Furious, I kicked them out of my room and I went back to sleep. The next morning, I couldn't get what happened that night out of my head. When we arrived at the academy, I stayed behind in the car for a minute. To my surprise, the man that I had saved came up to me and quickly shoved a note into my hand and then left. Be careful, the condos are dangerous. Meet me tomorrow if you want to know the truth. He'd written down a time and address below. On the one hand, I didn't know anything about the man who gave me that note. But on the other hand, the way my family was acting made me wary. That evening, I decided to try talking to my parents again. Mom, Dad, could we? I tripped over a suitcase. We're leaving for Japan for a few days. We have urgent business there. Your brothers will look after you. Don't worry, May will be safe with us. Ugh, that was it. I'd had it with their secrets. The next day, I snuck out and I met that stranger. But first, I texted Liam the address he'd given me just in case. I arrived at the city center, stopped by a supermarket, and looked around. A car stopped next to me. May, I'm so glad you came. Get in, I'll explain everything on the way. I wasn't sure that getting in a car with a stranger was a good idea, but he seemed kind and trustworthy, so I got into the back seat. I'm Mr. Oliver. I knew your real parents well. Really? Yes. The condos want to use you. You're actually very rich. I struggled to wrap my head around Mr. Oliver's words. Was he telling me the truth? My phone is dead. Could I use yours to make a call? I handed him my smartphone, still thinking about his words. I was so lost in thought that I didn't even notice we'd left the city. It was already dark. We were driving along a deserted highway through the forest. I felt uneasy. When I looked into the driver's mirror, I noticed that Mr. Oliver was grinning. His smirk sent a shiver down my spine. How could I be so stupid? I shouldn't have trusted a complete stranger. Give me back my phone. You won't need it. Even though my stomach was in knots, I immediately came up with a plan. When I said I needed to go to the bathroom, Oliver reluctantly stopped the car. I hid behind the bushes and then ran faster than ever before. Branches whipped at my face. I saw monsters in the darkness among the trees. It felt like Mr. Oliver was following me. At some point, I found myself back on the highway. A flash of headlights blinded me. Heck, it had to be him! The car stopped and a tall silhouette stepped out of it. I backed away and squeezed my eyes shut. Please! Hey, it's me. When I opened my eyes, I saw Liam and I threw my arms around him. Then I saw Aki getting out of the car. On the way back, they told me what had happened. I got your message. You weren't at the address when I got there, and you weren't answering your phone. I got worried and I called Aki. Someone had seen you get into a car and pointed us in the right direction. At home, my brothers wrapped me in a warm blanket and gave me hot tea. Liam was by my side and held my hand the entire time. Neither Aki nor my other brothers tried to chase him away. The next morning, our terrified parents came back home with tears in their eyes. They finally told me the truth. The first time we met, I noticed your pendant. The letters engraved on it are your parents' initials. We used to be friends. They commissioned that pendant right after you were born, shortly before. You were in a car accident. Your parents died. Until recently, we thought you had died along with them. Your uncle, Mr. Oliver, got all their money. He's a piece of work. When we adopted you, he was terrified. After all, your parents' money is yours by right. We recently filed a lawsuit to return your inheritance. We were afraid that he'd try to get in contact with you and lie to gain your trust. So we were trying to protect you from everything. We knew about it. I suspected that Liam was working for Mr. Oliver. I wasn't! Sorry. It took me a while to digest the news. My family supported me. After a while, we got my inheritance back. It turned out Mr. Oliver had recognized my pendant when we first met, too. He'd been watching me and waiting for the right moment to get rid of me ever since. I immediately donated some of the money to the orphanage I grew up in, and then started landscaping the city park. Liam and I planted cherry trees there. It turned out I got my talent for gardening from my mom. That's why our family symbol was a lily. By the way, Liam and I became an item. My brothers are still looking after me, but they try very hard not to cross any lines. That's how I found my family and met my soulmate. Do you believe in love at first sight? Tell me in the comments down below.